Okay, let's pray. Loving God, we thank you again that we can come to study your words and how to serve you better. We know that we are not perfect and we need your help. We pray for a lot of friends who need your help right now, especially for son. He lost his job, and we know that only you can help him to solve the problem and the situation, and so he can take care of his family again. We lift him up and the whole family up before you, and help also Hong Sai daughter that moving to Utah, help all of them, and for Boone and for the rest of us, and for Boone that he will get healed and get better to come back to class again, and the rest of us, we lift everyone up before you and thinking of the rest of us, whatever we need, help us. And for Kaolin, for his marriage, and for his life, and for his wife that you provide for him. We thank you for everything in Jesus' name and pray. Amen. Okay, let's come to chapter 10 now. We go a little bit fast on the preaching because we have to reserve at least 4 weeks at the end for your preaching. So each one of you are going to preach a few. Maybe some of you preach of 3, 4, some might be 1 or 2. And for the evaluation too. So each one of you will take around half an hour already, everything. So we need at least 4 weeks for that. So today we talk about introduction for your sermon. And we're going to talk about transition of your sermon. So what that means? If you compare that a sermon like a person, last week we talked about title, is the head. Now we talk about introduction and transition. It's almost like the neck. The neck and all the connection to your body now. We talk about a small part that connect each part. You have hand, you have leg, you have body. But in order for all these important parts to connect together, we call transition. It moved from head to neck. What connects between the head and neck is some little thing. But some little thing is so important. Now you have your title. And in order to have your sermon, the first important part we talk about introduction. For example, you're going to preach about love. Your title is about love. Now, before you go to your body of love, what you intend to teach them. For example, you're going to preach on the topic of love, on topic of sermon. You're going to preach about 4 kinds of loves. Now, you need to have some introduction. What kind of introduction is the best for you to talk about love? Well, here in this chapter, we will give you some advice, but you get some idea. Before you talk about 4 kinds of loves, what is the best thing to gain people's attention? Well, in fact, love is a topic that's so popular. People know a lot about love, talk a lot about love, but a lot of time it's not what you intend for them to know. So here, before you go to the body of what you intend to teach them or preach to them, introduction is one important part because people will continue listening to you or not. It depends a lot on your introduction. It's just a few minutes. And even sometimes just a few sentences that you say. People will continue listening or stop listening because of few sentences or the first few minutes that you say. So it's so important. Don't say that, oh, introduction is just a little bit, but this is the selling point. People will continue listening to you for the next 15, 20, 30 minutes or not. It depends on your introduction. So what is the best introduction of your sermon? First, you try to sell them something. It's like a little bit of sampling. Now, I believe that you went to Costco and sampling free food before. What's the idea of free food that they let you sampling? They hope that you like it and you will buy the whole bag of it or the whole carton of it. But they give you a little bit of sampling. They hope that you like it. So they pick up, they make it warm or they cook it for you. The best that they can present you a little bit of the whole bag. So introduction is similar to that. How you offer something in advance for the people to taste it and sampling it. A little bit of it. And make them more interesting and make them want to have more. This is introduction. Now, introduction also help them focus. Now they know what they're going to listen. Now they can pay attention to what kind of love you're going to teach them or preach to them. They might think they know everything already, but you need to let them know that there's still a lot more that they don't know. Or what they know is not all correct. So this is introduction for your sermon. And introduction is like you make them feel good about you in just a few minutes, in just a few sentences. And this is so important. It's like making friends. You make a first impression. And people want to continue talking with you or they want to walk away from you. It's just a few words that you say. Sometimes you might ever think that your first few words that you talk to some stranger can make you friend or can make them your enemy. So now you get the idea that introduction is so important. Even it's just a few sentences or just a few things that you're going to say before your real teaching or preaching. This is introduction. Now, some advice. They say that if you can make it personal, what that means? It means that make your topic your personal experience. Tell them that I want to share with you about my first love, or people want to hear, or want to know. Or you might ask them that think about your first love when you was young. You're falling in love with someone. How you feel? So this is the first connection of your introduction. Is the topic is about them. It's very personal and very important to them. It's about them, about their life. And I have some personal advice that I want to share with you too. So now you see that your introduction make them feel important, make them feel that you're talking to them. And you're talking about something that's important to them. They want to hear. So make it personal in any way. Communicate the importance of the topic. Now, the second advice is make them feel that this is important. This is serious. They need to know. They need to pay attention to what you're going to teach them or preach to them. Now, if the topic is they don't feel that important or relate to them, they will stop listening. How you make it interesting, how you make it relate to them, important to them. So this is the second thing that you can make them think. Do you afraid to lose the love that your wife have on you? Or do you know that your wife still love you? Oh, this is serious. Are you sure that your children love you? It might be tough question, but they pay attention. So introduction is anything that make it personal, anything that make them feel that this is important. They need to know. Touch on the role your topic has in culture. Now it's more modern, it's more related to their life, their culture. In some Asian culture, we don't talk about love. Our love for us is so different from Western civilization. So you might show them that even in their culture, they don't talk about this topic, but it's important. So today you're going to tell them that why we need to know or why we need to adjust to the culture. What's right, what's wrong about love. So culture, tradition always take part in your topic. And you always let them know that we're going to talk in their culture, in their tradition too. So this is something that it's not in general, it's about them, important to them. And they say that the Bible is something 2,000 to 4,000 years ago. A lot of people feel that it's not related to them. But how can you make them feel that the teaching is still about them? And the teaching is always relate to them in our generation, in our time. This is the words of God. So your introduction can help that. Make them feel that man never changed. For thousands of years, we still human beings. We still have the same feeling. And love is the most important feeling that man have beside hate or fear. You see that the Bible talk about two opposite feeling that we have, love and fear. But in this world, we talk about love and hate, or fear and bravery. But the Bible used a different way to talk about the opposite of love is fear. In true love, there is no fear. When there is fear, there is no true love. Now you can point that the Bible talking something that we might don't understand, and we might misunderstood the topic for so long. But God wanted to understand it correctly. Make God relevant, make God important in the topic and for the listener. The words of God apply to their life in every way. Now they say that some advice of 20, 20 opening line for your next sermon. Okay, this is introduction. Let's take some look at it and see that it works in our culture or not. This is come from most American tradition and culture. The preacher can say a few lines, a few words in this way. But now let us look that can we use it in our culture or not. I wish you could have been there. This is general. It just means that I was there. And I just wish that you could be there with me. Now people might be interested what that means. What kind of situation, what kind of experience that you have, and you wish the preacher wish that the listener can be there too. So you can continue. I was in a big concert. 100,000 people come together. And the feeling is so awesome. And then you might say that I wish you can be there with me. So this is some kinds of situation that you share your experience in your opening, in your try to bring your topic to them. The presence of God is your topic, and you tell them the experience that you felt the presence of God in a big way. And you just wish that they can be there with you. So this is something you can bring people to your topic. And this can be a good connection between the topic and the body. Your introduction can help a lot. Now, the second advice, they say that you can say something like this. I never forget the first time of what? I tried Coca-Cola, or I tried French fry. And people might want to know that what is your feeling the first time you try French fry? In American way, even little kids eat French fries since they can walk. But for a lot of us, it might be in your 20, 30, 40 years that you taste French fry for the first time. So this is a different kind of culture experience. And you know that some people in some part of the world never taste apple. Because they know apple for them. It was one of the most exciting days of my life. So this is your personal experience that you want to share with the people. And people want to know what kind of experience is that. It's what the scariest moment of my life. So you see that a lot of this advice is about your personal experience. And a lot of time is something not normal, something that abnormal, something for the first time, something that on top of your life that you want to share with them. Now you see that why they love all kind of this statement. Introduce people in your introduction. And the advice will keep go on that it's about what you feel, what you think, what you expect, or a lot of things that you don't expect. A lot of things that you didn't realize that it exists or possible. So this is a lot of point that you can use for your introduction when you start your sermon. Okay. I want to stop a little bit to come for your reflection or question. If I go too far, you might forget everything that I talk. So I want you to go back just for a first few 6 pages, especially all this advice about talking about some experience that you want to use as your introduction. If I give you a topic, can you make introduction about the topic? Okay, let me give you a topic and think that you can make introduction for that or not. Death. You're going to preach about that in your funeral service. Now, what kind of introduction should you use? Okay, in America, they have a lot of saying that a lot of things in your life that you cannot run away with. But there are two things that you will never run away from it. The first thing is IRS. They want your tax. Wherever you run to in this world, IRS go after you and get your tax. Even after you die, IRS still go knock on your coffin for your tax. That's the first thing that you cannot run away from. Second thing is they said that everyone will die one day. Doesn't matter who you are, how rich you are, how famous you are, how powerful you are, you're going to die one day. So this is a good introduction about that when you preach about that. It's about them. Everyone will die one day. And then what is your goal of preaching about death? You ask them that they're ready or not to face death. Most people will never be ready for it. We prepare for everything, for your exam, for your moving, for your test, but nobody prepare for death. And you will continue that. What is your goal of preaching about death? That we can continue, but the introduction is to gain their attention, to make them feel that they cannot run away from it. This topic is about them. And they need to know why we talk about death. I know in some culture, people never talk about death because they're scared. And it's a bad omen to talk about death. But for us, this is a topic we need to talk, we need to know. We need to be ready and we need to prepare. It's not happened by chance that somebody dies, somebody don't die, but everyone will die. Accident is something happen, it's not happen, but death is not accident. It's a sure thing. So this is something that you can use when you preach on the topic. Okay, what kind of topic that you think that we can brace up and you can make an introduction that make people pay attention?
How many kind of deaths? Can we ask a question, Ajahn?
How many kind of death? So what that means, many kind of death?
I mean that physically death, spiritual death.
Oh,
What does it mean?
okay, because people might misunderstood your topic. Because in general sense, people just know that there is only one death. Mean that you stop breathing. Well, if you want to preach on that topic, I think you might just mention that.
Is to say there's hope about that?
Yeah, because in Christian theology, death doesn't mean the end. A lot of Asian people believe that death is the end of everything, but for Christian, no, that is not the end. It's just the beginning of another thing. It's not the end. It's just a transitional thing. Because man's spirit lives forever. So it's not the end. It's just a changing. Yes, Nathan.
About we are from the from dirt and we go back to dirt
Well, if that you just mean physical body, our spirit will go back to God because our spirit not going to extinct or disappear. It come from God, it go back to God, but the body come from the earth, it go back to the earth. So you see that even one topic, there's so many dimensions that you can talk about, you can preach about. You cannot cover everything in one topic or in one time. So a lot of time you need to tell yourself that you just want to talk about one slide of the topic, one dimension of the topic. Instead of go everywhere, try to cover everything in that short 15, 20 minutes, it's impossible. Unless you want just sampling a little bit of everything. But the goal of your sermon is still important. What is your goal? Why you preach that topic? So your goal, your target, or your intention still going to form the outline of your sermon.
If you put the life after death, well, we also give them hope too, right, John? That I mean, death is not the end, but death is just beginning journey into the into a spiritual world, right? One in torment and the other one in paradise. So you have to choose the one of them to go to paradise. You have to come to Jesus, because John 14:6 said, Jesus said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. There's no other way to go to the heaven but through Jesus. This is most of the topic to be preached in a funeral. John, just let them give the people hope to see, that there is hope after death. So you need to, while you're still living, you need to, know Christ and accept Him as Lord and Savior, and then that way, can lead you to the paradise, to heaven.
Okay, but still, you still need to think of the good introduction. Most of the time, introduction is not short or not long. It's a short statement to bring people to your topic or to what you intend to teach them later on. Yeah, Poon.
อาจารย์ครับ that one thing one time so I use that the title, so only one way to you go to the heaven when you die. So I use this and for the Thai-Lao. So this I don't know this good or not, so the point.
Oh, it's good one, but how you going to bring them to that point? Only one way to heaven.
And come to Christ
and
accept Jesus. The same Ajahn Konsai said earlier, so John 14:6. So Jesus mentioned no, not another way, only my way. You can go to heaven.
Yeah, that's a good point to let them know that, because in many cultures they always believe that there's so many ways to get there. But when you say that there is only one way, so they want to know your point. Why you believe that there is only one way? How could you know? You ever die before?
We have to take Jesus' word for it, Ajahn. This is what Jesus said, not my word, not anybody's word. This is Jesus' word. Jesus came from heaven, and Jesus is the second Adam that did not come from Adam's seed, that can die for all humans, that can take all men back to be reconciled with God again.
Yeah, if you know someone who ever died and come back, it can be a very good witness to say that I know a man who died and come back. Your friend, your family, someone that you know very well died and come back and tell you. So that is the testimony to confirm that only one way. Or if you die before and you come back, that even the strongest point that I went there and I come back. But I would not recommend you try to die and come back. Because if you try, you might not come back. So now you see the whole point of introduction is to bring your topic to the people with a big bang, mean that they will pay attention to you for the next 15 to 30 minutes at least. So this is something important. If you lost them from the first 2 minutes, maybe you don't get them back. So now, why you ever know that why little kid, even baby, watch television? Most of the time, baby don't pay attention for anything too long. So the TV found out how to get the attention, the first moment. Something that attract to them right away. And now you know that more and more people in modern day have less and less attention span. In the past, we said people can pay attention to 10 up to 20 minutes, but now they say no. Since the time of internet, now sometimes maybe less than a minute. If you don't get the attention by that time, you already lost them. So that's serious. Okay, let's go back to the lecture note now. Let's see, where are we? Okay. A lot of authors give some idea that the first minute of your sermon is so important in the whole sermon. Because people will continue listen or not, it depends on your first few minutes. That you present it well, you offer them something that they think that it was their time to listen to you. And now they advise you something that you should not do. I read them, I think about them, but I found out that something is more in American culture. And something might not work in our culture, but at least we learn from them how they think. Now, the first thing is don't even walk into the pulpit to preach if you are not well prepared. Mean that your sermon is half-baked or don't have enough time to think over or think very well about it. And a lot of things they say that you get away the attention by you fill with the microphone or doing something else with your drinking water bottle or something that distract people. So what they try to tell you is you prepare very well, walk there and start your preaching without distraction. And they recommend you that don't say excuse too much when you start. A lot of time we excuse for the waiter, we excuse that we are late, or excuse that I am too short, too tall, too loud, too quiet. They say that doesn't help in your preaching, unless you want to make fun of yourself or make them laugh. Well, if you have good intention to do that, and it helps your sermon, it might be. Because some preachers just want people to laugh and make people feel comfortable about the sermon. Now, if that's your intention, but if your intention is you want to teach them some serious stuff, it might not help. And it might be a distraction. So now, sometimes you always have to think first why you want them to react that way. You have a goal, you have a purpose for them to do that. A lot of time we never think about anything. We just think that anything fun is okay. Now it's something that only Christians do. For example, when you go to preach in the funeral service, you make people laugh. Oh, in many Asian cultures, you cannot do that. Because people are supposed to cry in funeral. But why Christian funeral is so fun, people laughing, clapping hands. Is that appropriate? Well, sometimes it's okay because we want to show them that death is not so scary. And that for Christian is not the end, it's just the beginning. And we still have a better life waiting for us. So that you need to let people know that why Christians sing and laugh in funeral. Because this is not the sad time. It's a celebration of new life, new beginning. So it can be a good point if you know how to bring people to your goal. But if you don't know how to bring them from that point to another point, you might miss all the opportunity to share what we believe and the powerful sermon that you want to preach. Now, something they recommend you to do when you preach. Start preaching immediately. Mean that don't waste your time doing something else or talking about a lot of nonsense things because you don't have time. People don't have time too. So when you go to preach, get ready and preach. Something else can wait. This is your job. And they recommend you that write down your sermon because it helps you to think well. But I would not recommend you to come and read your sermon. But it's okay to write down every word that you want to say, but don't read it because I know in some churches and some preachers do read the sermon. Sign up and read. But this is not the good way to preach your sermon. People want to hear it come from your heart, not from your head. Share with them what this passage is about and how you feel about it. But on your text or on your note, you can write anything you want, but don't read it. Unless some important sentences or something you want to quote correctly, okay. But don't read your whole sermon in front of people. Even I know some churches or some preachers do that. But this is not a good way to preach. And always start with something serious, some important question about your sermon. Let people get involved and let people think ahead. And it's always to start with something lighter, mean that they use the word humorous or something that sounds fun or in good nature. But it's not in a serious thing in some way. So this is some advice from all the famous preachers that when they go to preach, something that they will never do, something they will try to do it all the time. Okay, now come back to best sermon introduction. Well, I don't know if it's the best for you or not, but for a lot of American preachers, they feel that this is the best. What is the best? They say that don't waste your introduction. Mean what that mean? Mean that it's so important to use that few minutes for your advantage. Don't waste it. Don't let it go by do nothing. So say something important or let them think in serious in a question that you have for them. Get their attention in the first few minutes that you have with them. And now that they want you to think this way. Your introduction and your conclusion need to support one another. So now you see that the whole sermon will have introduction and conclusion, but the body is in the middle. But they want you to think from the beginning to the end. The beginning and the end need to coordinate, mean that they need to talk to one another and support one another. You cannot start with something and end up with another thing. So, by the way, to say that when you start your introduction, you need to get ready for the conclusion. It support one another and talking about the same topic, the same idea. It just try to reinforce the introduction. You cannot make one introduction and end up with another story, another thing that's so different from your introduction. Because people get confused and lost attention. So this is something that you have to think very well. When you start some introduction, you always think that conclusion need to be the same way, support one another. And you can use a lot of things into your introduction as long as people pay attention and in good taste. And to honor God too, because you're preaching in church. It's not just something that you talk somewhere else, but in church to honor God. And here's some more advice. Some preachers use a story. They tell a story when they start, a short story, relate to the topic. Why? Because sometimes people want some different presentation. And when they hear a story that's so famous or story that they already heard about it or know about it, and you reinforce it in your introduction, and it works. So a good story always helps. Or sometimes you tell them the fact or statistic, like you preached about death, and you say that, do you know that how many people got hit by a car and die every year in San Francisco or in New York? And you tell them the statistic, 500 or 1,000 people. And then people get shocked. They didn't never heard about anyone got hit by a car on the street in San Francisco, in New York. That many. Something from current event, war, disaster, hurricane, or something that impact people's life or their job or their family. Something that serious, it will work. Or put some serious question for them to think. So it always sum up that your introduction needs to be up to make people shocked. If you need to do that. And that always help with your sermon. So if you have a very strong introduction, it will help. Because a lot of people always think that Bible is so boring. Bible is no fun. But in fact, you can make it interesting. Because the Bible is the words of God. It's just how you present it to people. And now they say that another good way to use your introduction is, they say that raise the need in the mind of your people. Mean that when you say a few words or a few sentences, people start to think and have some expectation. Well, it's not always bad, but you need to deliver, mean that your sermon need to answer what they expect. So this is the hope. When they heard what you say, they have hope in your sermon, what they hope for. Well, some help or some hope or some guideline. So your body of your sermon need to present them with some guideline or some offer that they can try. So it works together. It's like when you want to sell your products. You might have to just say a few words first why people want to pay money for your product. In a few words. You might tell them that you get back 10 times of the money you pay me. 10 times. Wow, people might want that kind of investment. You get back 10 times of what you invest. So what company can give you that much? No. But you cannot lie to them though. You need to really tell them the truth. What you promise them is possible. I know some people just want people to pay attention and lie to people, but this is not the way to preach a sermon. You need to be sincere and tell people the truth. Now, another advice and warning. You cannot make a big promise and you did not deliver. Mean that your message need to support your introduction. Your message need to be the answer of your introduction. When you make a question, your message need to answer that. So it have to go hand in hand. And I would say that you have a man, try to make a man, need to have a man head and a man body, man feet and man hand. You cannot make an alien out of your sermon. When I talk about alien, mean that everything go. A sermon is a perfect body of something you want to present. So it's sum up that introduction is so important and it matters. Even it's short, it just take a few minutes, it means everything. Okay, now more advice. This is another sum up that how you make your introduction. They say that make it urgent. What that in a few sentences, you let them know that what you're going to say, to talk, to teach is so urgent, is so important, is so serious that they need to listen to you. This is serious about their life. They need to know now. So this is how you make your introduction. And a lot of people will pay attention. If something serious about their life, start high. So what that means? The whole thing is make your sermon with high hope. Mean that don't start low. It means that you don't pay much attention to your sermon because you think that people don't want to listen and the topic is so boring. No, you don't do that. You have to treat your sermon with high hope, with this is the words of God. And you pay a lot of attention to present the words of God to the people. This is a serious business. And you have hope that it will impact listener life. So it starts with you. People will never give you much credit if you yourself don't give yourself credit. Now you get the point. If you come with no hope, you come with don't care much about what you're doing. Now people will not pay attention to. Now you are a preacher. Why you treat the word of God that not so serious? And you don't expect anything out of what you preach. Why you treat the word of God that way? No, you have to start with high hope. This is the words of God. It impacts the life of listeners, and they need to know it. And God wants them to change or to respond to his words. So it's mean about you. You start with high hope, high expectation, and work hard on it. This is the words of God. You don't take it lightly. It's a big responsibility. The third thing, start with a story. They always say that a good introduction is always, if you don't know how to find a lot of serious questions, tell a story always work. Short one though, I don't mean a long story. You just have a few minutes. Make a short story and relate to your whole sermon in some way. Start with an impactful statement. So sometimes you quote the words of some famous people, what they say. And that might gain attention because the name of the speaker that people know or people respect. And they want to know more why you use that statement. Is what it relates to them. Now start with giving a call to action. Another good way that you start your sermon is about challenging them to do something. Let them know that you come to challenge them to act in some way. They need to do something and why they need to do. Your sermon will tell them why they need to react, why they need to do what you challenge them to do. Start with attention-grabbing question. This is go back to the question. Do you want to be happy? This is the question. And almost everyone, I believe, will answer yes. Now your sermon is about happiness. How to be happy in this unhappy world. You want to be the one who happy? Why a lot of people never be happy? What is the secret? How to get it? So this is the way to start your sermon, the introduction to your sermon. Now you see it's so different from the past. You might just say, today I will preach about happiness. Well, introduction is not that good though. But when you start with, are you happy? Do you want to be happy? I think this is better. And people pay more attention. Now you see that the way you present it with the different words, it changed the whole dynamic of your sermon. 7, start with a startling fact or statistic. This is the same thing, going back. Tell them the number. Scare them with the number that they never know that this is that big number. How many people die because of? You can pick up any story. How many people die in their sleep? People might never heard about people die in their sleep, but the number is so high. A lot of people die in their sleep. And they think that they go to bed tonight and then we wake up tomorrow. A lot of them never wake up. They're gone. People might think this is the best time or best place to die in your own bed at nighttime. Start with humor. Well, it's also work too. But I always say that good humor, not bad one. And the one that makes sense, it always helps in some way. Especially when you have to preach about a very serious topic. If you start with something lighter, it might balance the topic in some way. Start with scripture, and this is a lot of people do that, but don't do it every time. Try a variety of ways to start your sermon. It's always better that way. People need some changes all the time, but scripture always one of the standard that most preachers will use. When they come up to the podium, they will start reading the Bible, and this is the introduction. Yes, this is the standard way, but I would recommend you try something else sometime. You still need to read the Bible sometime or later on, but don't make it introduction every time. Use something more variety. Okay. And they come to remind you that transitional can make or break your sermon. And this is come back. The introduction beside introduction, there is more transitional. You see that when you preach your sermon, you will have point 1, point 2, point 3, point 4, and conclusion or illustration. But between each point, we call you have a transitional sentence or period or something that connect all your division together. This is we call transitional. It's like sometimes we call transitional period. The chain between one point to another point. And you need to make connection between point 1 to point 2. And this is we call transition. You have to make it smooth and go in the right way. If not, people feel that they have some bump. So this is where you have sermon well, like you have a step, like stepping stone or the ladder that people can walk step by step. People cannot just jump from the top of the hill to the bottom without many steps to guide them. So the step is like transition. All the way to let people know that there is way to get from this point to another point. And this is the transition, what we call. So you need to help people move their thinking from point 1 to point 2. Let them know that they relate to one another and how they can connect. You cannot hope that everyone know how to connect it by themselves. Some people don't know how to. So you need to help them. This is why you need to make your sermon very simple to understand and simple to see. Don't let people guess how to get connection. So this is make it clearly, simple, and you need to preview it that everyone can understand it easily. From point 1 to point 2, for example, you preach about new life. You teach them that how to get a new life. Point 1, they need to acknowledge their problem, their sin. Point 2, they say that after they acknowledge their sin, their mistake, they need to ask Jesus to help them. And then how to go to that point, you need to tell them that they need to confess their sin, accept Jesus to be their God Savior. And you see that the Holy Spirit will come into them and help them from that point on. They do their part, and God do his part. So you need to show them the step, all the way to get there. Now they say that they advised you to move from introduction to point 1 to point 2 to point 3. They say that don't rush. Because when you rush from point 1 to point 2, point 3, people might get lost. So in the connection, they say that slow down a little bit before you get from point 1 to point 2. Let people see the point that, oh, now you slow down because it's going to change. So people can get a breath and know that now we're changing to another point or another step or another thing. Secondly, look both ways. This is like you're driving. Before you change lane, you need to look everywhere to be sure that nobody there, or nobody going to hit you, or you're not going to hit someone. So mean that you have to look to the front and to the back on your point. And some preacher even review, okay, point 1 is about this, and point 2 we are now, and the point 3 we're coming. So you try to relate each point and let people get the idea that now we are in the middle now. And we not get lost. You don't need to do it all the time, but you need to do at least once to let people know. And now they say the last connection between transitional is from the last point to the conclusion. Conclusion is mean that you sum up everything you teach or preach that day. And the transition to that conclusion important too. Like you get the 4 steps to get a new life. The conclusion will come to the point that you intend for them to accept the new life or to start something. The conclusion will never be effective if you don't challenge them to do something. So the goal of a sermon is not just let people know or get knowledge. You want people to change. You want people to respond and do something about your sermon too. So this is another job that you have to do. How you make them make decision. How you make them decide to do something. So conclusion is on that. But later on, we will know more about invitation and other topic. But conclusion is the general idea. You try to close down your whole sermon and make it effectively in the listener life. And a lot of time when you go to that point, you review everything and you make every connection. And most American preachers say that don't apologize. I don't know, maybe that is for them, it feel that you have worked so hard. Why you have to apologize again, that you take too much time or you make it too difficult or something. They say that get away from that. You only do your best. Let God work in the people's life. Don't apologize. For this is how they feel. So they say that your job in your last connection or transitional to the end is make it clear. And in the space that you have, in the time that you have, and slower. Don't rush to finish, even you don't have much time. And this is just a last few moments that you can connect your listener to your last thing, conclusion. And make sure that all the listener ready to respond and want to do something. That's your goal. And this is some idea that they remind you that your sermon need to have all the connection point, and each point need to work together like the whole body. The connection point is something that hold all your body part together. So you need to have them. And they need to be flexible and work well to hold your sermon together. Okay, this is all the presentation I want to give to you. I want to come back to you and talk more about how you think about the topic tonight, transitional in your sermon, from the beginning to the end. You have many transitional from the title to the conclusion. You have many transitional points that you need to pay attention from the first one until the end. Now, after listening to all the lecture, how you feel about your work that you have done so far? You think a lot about that? Yes, Nathan?
Ajahn, when you said transitional, that means by using those 5 W's and the H.
So what do you mean by 5 W?
When you when you preach and you try to move on to next step, instead just jump in, you use your W to ask questions, so you can move forward with a little bit next level.
Well, if your sermon division is that way, but if your division is not that way, you see, I always say that when you try to preach a sermon, the easiest way is try to answer the question, who, what, where, when, why, how. That is the easy way to make your division. So that is in general, but sometimes you don't use that thing in your every sermon. But you still need to have division in every sermon. Some sermon you just try to answer who, or what, or when, or why, or how. A lot of times you cannot answer five of them. You just concentrate on just one. But your transitional still have to come back to each point to let them know that, okay, you emphasize this point and now you're going to move on to another point that is about transitional. How you go smooth and make them feel that, oh, it all connect. In your lighting, you might not have a lot of clear because in your lighting, you might just jump from point 1 to point 2 to point 3. But when you present it, you need to have connection. Some preacher will write down even the sentence that connect point 1 to point 2. But if you don't write it down, you need to know how to move from point 1 to point 2. That we call connection or transitional. So how do you do it so far in your sermon? I heard a lot of preachers just say that, okay, we're done with point 1, now we move to point 2. And that is not so smooth. Sometimes it's okay, but don't do that every week.
I think we need to discuss more in the Monday night. We have to talk more about that, Ajahn Konsai. And Ajahn, I have one more question. When you talk about funeral, for us Christians, we can, be happy, but knowing that every time when we have funeral, we always have non-Christian people come with us. So doesn't matter, if you do it too happily, they will say, man, they're crazy. This is not the moment to be so happy. So it's a good way to be happy, showing them that, we're not losing that person, we soon later will see that person. Like for and another question is how about like when dressed up like really black color, is it good thing to do, or just because the culture itself, you have to conform to the culture?
Yeah, culture is one thing that's so important because different church deal with different culture. I went to some funeral that the people demand that no black. They want other color. They already demand that in my funeral, no black color. So you need to respect the dead person that they demand no black color. They want other colorful dress or people dressed happily in their funeral. So it depends. Culture get in. If they don't say so, most culture will either black or white. Just to show. Yes.
I had some people comment on me when I dress as a as a preacher doing the funeral service, I dressed in like a regular suit, like a like Thai teacher, whatever. But they said why I am not dressing like a suit and tie, and then why I'm not dressing in a like in black color. And I told him, said, Christian, we don't, ภาษาเขาเอิ้นบ่ถือเนาะบ่ถือเพราะว่า for us we don't think that okay have to be sad, we should show them that Christian when we do the funeral has to be like one is celebrating the life of the person, or it's like when you dress like Ajahn Pun said, you dress in black, look like like sad, like Buddhists, right? Buddhists of all people go to that funeral has to be dressed in black. Also, what do you think, Ajahn?
Well, I think it depends on you care about the culture or not, or you think that how they go to respond, you intend to work with them or just want to let them know the difference. So it depends on your goal too, and what the people there, what they want. Sometimes it's polite to ask them what you want, what your intention of the funeral. So if you know in advance, you can do the thing that they want.
This is not the family that make a comment. It's the people that come to the funeral, Buddhist worshiper, so they kind of like, funeral is supposed to be, sad and all that stuff. And I said, no, Christian, we look at funeral is not sad, in sadness, but funeral is for the living, to line up the living, so that let them know that, if that person that passed away believe in God, they in a beautiful place, or they in, waiting for us. But, we celebrate their lives, journey to, or, tell them that. So, and then we said, there's a hope, that for us, we Christian, we're not sad. We're not like always lose hope or think that, like during this time we have to mourn and sad, to let them know.
I think the better way is to answer them, we both sad and happy. Why I say that?
Because there are people some sad and happy coming to that.
And Christian too, we do both. We sad and happy at the same time. We sad because we're not going to see them for a while. We sad because we have to say goodbye. We sad too. But at the same time, we're happy because we have hope that that person go to a better place, and now they're happy. So I think the best way, I have to tell them we both sad and happy in the same time.
Yeah. They kind of ask question because they've been to the Buddhas. They always wear, the preacher always wear black or dress in black or something, or suit, but I don't dress like that. I just dress like normal, like, but I just explain, oh no, Christian ความเชื่อของ Christian คือ we dress, as a preacher.
Why I say that the best way, you should go to both way, because when you go one way, you hurt their feeling, and you might show them that we don't care about them. But if you care about them, you will share their loss and their feeling too.
So that means we have to dress according to what they want. Okay, so that means we have to wear a suit or wear a black color.
Well, it depends on what the people feel and what you expect to do. But as I say that if you want to reach out to every group, you need to care about their feeling too.
Okay, so thank you. So from now on, Ajahn Pun, we need to like, when we stand in, we stand in front of the, the group and we do all the funeral. We don't we don't think it's, so we're doing just a Christian way, so they can see the Christian way of doing the funeral, so we got to think of both, dress to the whatever they, feel like fits, right?
Yeah, when Christians say that we do our way, it means that we don't care about their way of how they feel. And that shut the door for us to witness to them.
Thank you, Ajahn, for giving that input. So yeah, that's from now on we gotta, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Nathan.
But Ajahn, remember Ajahn said that first of all, we have to ask a family's opinion first. Yeah. Yeah. Like my mom, she said that when she passed away, she wants to be dressed white.
Yeah. Yeah, if the host or the dead person or they request, you can tell the people that they request that way. But still, you should also say that we sad and happy in the same time. Yeah, don't just say I'm happy. People might feel that, oh, you happy that they die.
Yeah, but when we present to the people, which is just before we, we do the funeral thing, we just say, we sad and we happy, like in our introduction to go there, let them know that, we sad because, we miss our beloved one, and we are happy that our beloved one go to a better place. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the time that we need to be very sensitive to people's feeling. I know that a lot of time Christians so elegant, and people feel that we look down on them.
Ajahn, there's a funeral that the Christian, they do both way. It's so conflict. They do both. They do two way at the same time.
What that mean two way?
The one is they do a Christian way first, and then they do the Buddha way second. that was I heard. And I didn't go to that one, but I heard that it's really conflict between the Buddhist and the Christian, because the preacher of the Christian was like preaching about Buddha is not like so.
Well, you need to be clear with the family that they have to choose one funeral only.
Yeah. อาจารย์จำแม่ของตุ๊กตาได้ไหม? Yeah, I think they do a two way. And
so that is not right. So they they need to talk before what they want and do one way.
Tukta one Christian way, and then the other family one Buddha way too. So it become a conflict afterwards.
Yeah, they should decide first.
Yeah.
You cannot do two things in one funeral.
Yeah.
Yeah, the same. And me and Ajahn Hosai, right? All the people from Sigo, so they need we do funeral. They say, okay, we do the Mormon first, and we come to do another the time for the Christian. Say no, if Mormon do, you let them do. Me and Ajahn Hosai, we don't do it. If you let we do it, we do it. So we don't do it. Let them do it.
We said we do it our way. Like we don't want to have conflict with the other group. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. If you do two things, problem will happen.
Okay, John, one thing. Okay, so I have questions. So the same problem all the time, so how many years already? A lot of people I go to Peterlo, so make the service, you do service for them. I asked them, so okay, why even don't you wear the black suit like you in front? Just be okay, John. It's okay. They say that. So after that, we start until now. Me and John Gonzalez, so we don't mention, but the same thing you told us early. So we have you said we said too, and why we said because we lost and another one. You lost, like me lost. We explain a little bit for them. They know. So I'm sorry, I don't have the black shoes to wear. Oh, that's okay. That's on the last 2 weeks, March 7, I went there. All the family they wear white. I wear shirt from Lao culture, the Lao Thai culture. So they wear the one. So they show them, But it's a lot of people, or her kids wear all white, our family. So we thank God that, sometimes, I tell Ajahn Kosache, if I wear something like suit like that, make me too high, like you could like a big fish, something like that, But we not, that like a servant God's use, the humble, the same you do, same to you. I feel I put one time Ajahn, so I have one, but one member in the church, right? I come ask my wife, can I wear this one? Yeah, wear the one good, I put it and walk back and forth and then 2-3 times inside the house. So I look in mirror. No, we can wear that one. I take it out and wear the Liangale ones and go ask them, I'm sorry, I wear that that's a dress. Okay, so they say, okay, no problem. And thank God. Sometimes very hard at chance so to wear the something so like look like somebody look like you lift yourself up, you feeling like that. That's to be okay, right, John? So if we
Conviction, Ajahn, you call it conviction. Your right conviction. Your heart tells you, convict you. When you feel wrong, you don't do it, right? When you feel comfortable, you do it. Is that right, John? Dressing too. Dressing is to to glorify God too, right?
Yeah, you don't do anything that against your conscience.
Consent,
Because
yes.
that's already wrong.
Thank you. Thank you, Ajahn.
Okay, do you have any more comment or question on transitional of your sermon?
Sometimes we kind of like don't know. Is that sometimes we mix expository with the texture. Like I know sometimes our sermons going like that, Ajahn.
Well, we learn all the technique or the structure just to help you. So in real life, as long as it works and people enjoy it, it's okay. But when you are a student, you need to know all the technique. You need to know have all the skill that they expect you to learn. In real life, you need to adjust a lot of things.
You're right, Ajahn. We we are not smart. We are not had much experience. But we just do what we know what we can do. God give to us, and we do our best. And sometimes people might look at us wrong way or negative way. We don't think about that. We do it, whatever we do in the name of God, and and we done our part. So mostly as like right now we do when the funeral. When people die here and they request like, can you help with this? Can you help with that? Me and Ajahn Pun say yes. I mean, we help any opportunity to share God's word, any opportunity to present, God's word in front of the people to give them, hope. And we said yes. We do it because we know it's the opportunity to share God's word. That's why we use the funeral as as a main thing that sometimes that if they come to us, we help each other.
You're right. This is the best time to witness to people about Christian love and God love. So don't ignore if they ask for help. This is a good chance And you remember Cat and Farm Chair last week? They held a funeral and 24 members in that family come to know God. So never say no when people need help.
Yesterday we do the funeral.
We did this.
We never see that this person can have a guest over 100 people over the lawn in the cemetery and the funeral home.
Just weekdays.
Weekdays.
Most of the time it's weekdays, just not that many people.
Ajahn Konsai, do you see my Facebook live, right?
Yes, Cat, we see it. I said, you know, there's a lot of people, yeah. And it's
And
nice day too, right?
Yeah.
In the funeral home it's more.
Ajahn, I'm going to write my preaching for that funeral. How's that?
Good.
Okay. I talk about that, my introduction about that, the kid, okay, the one who died. Okay.
After you write.
So I try my best to see this one. So how's it?
Okay, announcement again. We still have 5 more boxes of books. If you need them, this is the box of book that people got at a price for the raffle, but they did not claim it for many months, and we cannot hold it for them anymore. So if you don't want it, I will give all to Cat and Farm. And also bookshelf. If you want them, let me know today, because we need to decide before Sunday. Okay, anything else to say before we take a break? Okay.
Can I show them what bookshelf look like?
Yeah, please.
Oops. They're very nice. It's nice quality.
Oh yeah, we pay a lot of money for those bookshelves, but
We have
because
two
we
of
going to
them.
move.
It's very tall. We have two of them. And
Hey, no, you want it? I'll bring it to you.
Can you say one more time, Mali?
Let me see. The
This is
shelf.
the lower one.
we have a 3 of them.
Oh, okay.
And we have 2 of this big one.
Oh.
They're heavy.
Yeah, we're going to look at it.
When are you coming?
When we're going to go there.
Tomorrow I have another funeral, another remarriage. And I don't think so I can
Make it tomorrow.
make it tomorrow or Sunday, because you guys moving anyway.
Well, if you want, you can come with a truck and manpower, and then we can get it in on weekdays.
Or you can give to somebody else that you know.
Yeah, but you have to come.
I really want it, but I don't think so I can make it, but I don't want to delay your time.
No, it's okay. We can store it for a week or something.
Okay.
Okay, then
Then we need to look at it.
maybe I can call John, like, John, do you have a key, right? You have key, and if someday, if you're not busy, you can bring me over there, right, John? Like Monday?
I don't know, because we got to out, so we
Okay,
have to talk with them now.
okay, so then that way I pass, okay?
Yeah, I will have the key and we can get you access to it. It's on the 2nd floor and it's heavy. So you need at least 3 or 4 people.
Oh my God. Yeah,
But you know,
that-
I'm trying to save your back because nobody is in their 20s anymore.
Molly,
The one
I am strong enough, but I have a problem, Ben, because I got a hernia both sides.
Yes, a lot of people have back problem now. So
No, not the back, hernia.
hernia, yeah.
That's both sides, my left and right. My intestines drop.
So if you can bring extra people to
Fixed it
help
one
you.
time, but a doctor didn't do a good job, and then after that, 2-3 days, same thing, it tear again.
So you see, want it, we can save it for you.
Achan, okay, save it.
Sunday we go to church and we announce if
Do you want the big one or the short ones?
Okay, if I try to go to the church for this week on Sunday, I try to announcement, and if someone the one get it, and I call Mali. How's that? If you don't hear it from me, if you don't hear from Sunday or Monday, and that way go ahead and I pass.
Well,
and
you have until the end of the month.
until the end of the month. Okay,
Mhm.
then that way, if someone they take it and then don't matter.
Oh, sorry, this is not the right. Let me. Oh, let me get back to you about the requirement for this class. You have some project to do. You can do either way. You can do the topic paper. I realize it's a little bit, but some of you want to do the short note of each chapter. You can do that too. And if you want to do a different way now, I realize the requirement a little bit. You can do the translate, the history of this is number 5 is the history of translation of Bible into your language. And number 4 is about you select a chapter in Old Testament and talk about the translation into your language from the original language, but I allow you to use the English to compare your language and the English one to see that they do a good job, how they choose the words and they translate it correctly or not. One chapter in Old Testament and one chapter in New Testament for this requirement, if you want to do this project. And number 5 is about the history of translation into your language. This is topic number 4, number 5, but if you want to choose number 6, to do the translation of the lecture note into your language, and it covers 4 and 5. So this is the new option that I rely the requirement. And the good thing is you can do all these projects as a group with your friend. You don't need to do it yourself. So if you have someone to do with you or a group of people do it with you, you can do it at a group project. Okay, this is the requirement. Okay, so you have question on the requirement for your assignment. Just try your best, whatever you can do. And you can do as a group. If your group want to a certain thing and work together, it's okay. Now, today we talk about the early translation of the Bible. As I say that the Old Testament have been translated into Greek. The Old Testament written by Old Hebrew. And it translated into the Greek version around 400-500 years before Jesus' time. So when Jesus walked this world 2,000 years ago, the Bible already translated into Greek. And a lot of people use that version because by Jesus' time, the language of the world is Greek. But people in Jesus' time in Palestine, in Asia Minor, speak Aramaic. Aramaic is the language of mix of Persia, of Assyria, and Jewish, plus Greek. So now you can guess that the language is the byproduct of the culture and the politics. But still, the early translation of the New Testament will come very soon. Now you know that most of the New Testament written in Greek, and it's not classical Greek, but in the market Greek, mean that the Greek that simple people speak every day. It's different from classical Greek that written into literature, into philosophy. So it's more different from the classical Greek. Now you see that New Testament is more available because by that time, when we have New Testament, we mentioned that like when Paul wrote a letter into Greek, he did not write it himself, but his student read his lecture or from his teaching, or when he tell them what to write. The student have better Greek than Paul. Paul know the spoken Greek, but to write, they need the new generation who fully Greek to write the language. And the letter go around, and people copy it. Last week we talked about thousands and thousands of copies of Greek New Testament everywhere. Now we talk about when the Bible passed on to new believers, second generation, third generation in Asia Minor, in many parts of the world, in Europe. And people want the Bible into their native tongue. Now they start translating New Testament, not officially, but we found out that it had been translated into native tongue, native languages since the early day, like the second, the third century. We start seeing some translation. It's not officially, but at least some part of the letter of Paul or something have been translated now. Now, this is the number, very impressive. They say that by September 2022, our Bible have been translated into 724 languages. You ever believe that there are that many languages in the world? 724 languages. It means that some countries have so many languages, like in India or in China. But China always say that we have only one Chinese, but there's so many dialects, but the letters is one. But in India, there are several hundred languages. So that is something. Now this is the full Bible, translated into 724 languages. But the New Testament alone into 1,617 languages. This is New Testament. Now you see that there's so many languages in this world. And the Bible, at least New Testament, have been translated into all these languages. Now, if you talk about part of the Bible have been translated, into language of the world. They say that 3,589 languages. You ever believe that this will have that many languages? Unbelievable. In this world, we have just about more than 100 nations, country that we recognize, but they have almost 4,000 languages that people speak all over the world. So there's so many, but the Bible tries to keep up with that. By the Bible have been translated every day into more and more languages, and some languages never have written by a language or alphabet. So you know that what the missionary do? The missionary make the written languages for those people. And the purpose is so they can read the Bible. They never have written languages. They just have spoken. So the missionary make languages for them so they can read Bible. So this is something special. And the early version of translation into New Testament, we call Syriac, Latin, Gothic, Slavonic. All these languages start in the 4th century. So it means that the New Testament have been translated since the 4th century. You know that the whole New Testament have been canonized, mean that collect and put into the form of New Testament around the end of 3rd century, early 4th century. And by the way, when they have the New Testament, they start translation right away into so many languages, because people want to know the Bible, want to understand the Bible in their own language. Jerome in the 4th century translate the whole Bible into Latin. And this version have been used by the Catholic Church from that day on until even today. And the Hebrew Bible, we talk about Hebrew Bible, we talk about Old Testament. It has been translated, as I say, that into Greek first, and then many other more dialect and many versions. When we talk about versions, sometimes in one language, we have many versions. Why? Because people will never stop make the translation better. What that means, that better? And I say that there's so many copies of New Testament available. When they find the older version, they try to correct what they translate, because each version have been copied from time to time, and then we find out that sometimes they miss a vowel, they miss a little thing. And for all the translator, this is not perfect. When they can make it better, they will do it, because they believe this is the words of God. They want is all correct. They want is correct to the last words. Wherever they can find a better version or better copy, they will do it again. And people ask, when you going to stop the revision of the Bible? They say never. We will keep improving. Even we have the last version, the oldest version of the Bible, we still keep new edition of translation coming out. You know what? Why? Because the language itself keeps evolving. Like your language 100 years ago is not the same thing that you speak today. Language, the living language keep evolving, keep changing, because we have new words, we have new technology. Or the dictionary have to update every year because new words coming out. And in the past, we don't have computer, we don't have technology, we don't have a lot of terms that we use today. So this is the same thing that language evolved. So the translation of the Bible have to keep up with the new evolving of the language in every culture. So new people will understand the Bible. The Bible need to update all the time, not because the original is wrong or translation is wrong, but the language itself keep changing. For example, people always say that the best English version of the Bible is King James Version. Well, it's right and wrong. It's right mean that several hundred years ago, around 500 years ago, King James Version is the best for that 500 years ago. But now, why I say that it need update, it need to change, because even we found out a lot of new copy of the Bible that older than the one that King James used. That one thing, one problem. Secondly, English language 500 years ago and today, not the same English language. The language have been changed so much. So if you still keep using the old King James, a lot of people don't understand it. So we need to update to modern day English, but try to keep the original translation as much as possible. So today we have new King James. They try to answer that problem by using more modern day English in the translation, but try to keep all the original translation as much as possible. Well, they try to make up for the differences. But still, the debate still go on which version of the Bible is the best. Well, we will come to that answer very soon. Now we talk about the original Greek Bible that we talk about, we call it Septuagint. Septuagint translated by the Jew from Hebrew into Greek. Now it's very interesting. The translators are Jew. They study the old Jewish language that written the Old Testament. And they translate the Bible into Greek. How they do it? Well, they are modern day Greek. When I say modern day, I don't talk about today. I talk about almost 3,000 years ago. But the Old Testament have been there for more than 4,000 years. But almost 2,500 years ago, all the Jewish scholars, they say that it comes from 12 tribes because Septuagint means 70. They mean that all the 12 tribes send their scholars to sit together and work on the Old Testament and translate it from Old Hebrew into Greek. Well, that the story go on. We don't know exactly how they do it, but the story go on that all the scholars from every tribe work together and make the Septuagint version. And even in Jesus' time, Jesus sometimes quote the Bible from this version too, because it's the most available version that people in Jesus' time use. You know that in Jesus' time, the whole town, the whole city, the whole synagogue might have one copy of the Bible because it's so expensive and takes so much time to copy the Bible by hand. No printing shop. Every Bible have been copied by hand, one word at a time. So now you know how much time they have, and they don't have modern day paper that we have, and not modern day ink or pen that we have. No, they use some sharp metal, make a mark on the skin of the animal and fill it with ink. So it's a lot of work. The one who do the translation and the one who lay it on the skin of the animal. To make the copy of the Bible, it takes a lot of time, a lot of work. It takes years to make a copy of the Old Testament. But people doing that. Now the translation kept been go on from the early day, many versions of the Bible. And they have different names for different versions because they do the translation in different places. And even in the Greek version, they still use different names. And they use the symbol MT or something to designate that this is translated into Greek language in a certain time. And you don't believe that the Greek Bible is one of the most popular books in that time. Well, people say yes, because there are not many books available. Well, that is correct too. And the Bible is the most popular book, yes. And the only textbook for many cultures. They use the Bible as the textbook, learn how to read and write, because no other book. And nobody want to invest to write book. Only Bible is available for them to learn. The only book. Now we talk about Christian. Now when you remember that when Apostle Paul and his team go all over Europe and Asia Minor to preach the good news, and many nations became believers. The Greek, the Roman, the Arab, the Asian people, and they all speak different languages. Even they know Greek, because Greek is the official language of the world in those days. The Roman ruled the world for several hundred years, but people still use Greek because the Greek culture, philosophy, and language have been there for a long time. And people prefer Greek, and they always say that Greek is better than Latin, the language of the Roman. The Roman don't have the civilization in that language as good as the Greek have. So the Roman ruled the world, but the language still Greek. So the Greek Bible is so popular. Now another language that popular in Jesus' time we call Aramaic. And we already say that it's the mixture of many cultures, many languages. And people say that why don't they translate the Bible into Aramaic, since most people in Jesus' time speak Aramaic, at least in Palestine or in the Middle East. Yes, they did, but not the whole Bible. Later on, they translate the Torah. When we talk about Torah, we talk about the 5 books of Moses, like Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. That 5 books have been translated into Aramaic. And the most popular Bible that most synagogues will have. Now, another question is, why don't every synagogue or the place of worship, the Jews come to worship God, don't have the whole Bible? Well, first, it's so costly. And they don't have the budget or the money to have the whole Bible, the whole Old Testament. So at least they have the Torah, the 5 books of Moses that they consider the most important book that they need to have. And what they do with those Torah or the Bible that they have, the rabbi or the preacher will come at least once a week to recite the Bible from memory, or at least they can read it. And the people do the chanting, follow the leader. This is how they learn Bible, chanting. And they become their worship song. Because when they worship God, they chant the book of Psalm or chant some part of the Song of Moses or the law. This is how they learn the Bible, chanting after the leader, the preacher. Later on, they used the Aramaic version in their synagogue. The synagogue is the place that the Jews go to worship God. There is only one temple in Jerusalem. any other place that they get together to worship God, to pray, they call synagogue. The main difference is the synagogue cannot do the offering, cannot burn animal. Only place that they can burn the animal for sacrifice or do those things is the temple in Jerusalem, one place only in the world. When the Roman destroy the temple, all the Jews don't have anywhere to sacrifice animal anymore. So this is for almost 2,000 years that the Jew never sacrifice, never offer any burnt offering to God at all. And people say, why the Jew rebuild the temple? The answer is God do not allow it. And why? Jesus said, you don't need the temple. You don't need to sacrifice anymore. Jesus come to fulfill all those requirements. You don't need it anymore. It's out of date now. That's why God do not allow them to have the temple or the offering or the burnt thing anymore. They don't need it. And this is the best answer, because people always say, why the Jew rebuild the temple and sacrifice again? God don't allow it, so they cannot build it. They have been prepared to rebuild the temple for 1,000 years, but cannot do it. But if you believe in the book of Revelation, in the end time, Satan will come to help the Jew build the temple. And the Jew will accept Satan as Savior, because only Satan can allow them to rebuild the temple and sacrifice, give the offering again. But Satan will make himself new God for the Jew, make the Jew worship him, not the real God. That means the Jew will find out too late that Satan is not Messiah. Satan is not God, but he come to lie to the Jew. So to make the Jew worship him as God. So the Jew will rebel, and a lot of Jews got killed. A lot of Jews will come to know Jesus for the first time in the end time. So that is the book of Revelation. So we talk about the Syriac. This is another language. Today we call Syria or some other name. That the language that used in Palestine, in the Middle East after Jesus' time, because they become superpower, at least for a time, and the Bible, the Old Testament, will translate into that language too, for the people to use. Now we talk about New Testament. New Testament have been translated into many languages since the 3rd, the 4th century. And because the New Testament have been available since the end of 1st and 2nd century, even not in the canonized format, but in different letters that circulate around the early church for several hundred years already. So they have so many copies. And people who come from different countries want to know the New Testament, so they do the translation. They have been there for a long time, but not officially approved by the church. But we know that those copies are already available. And why? In the Old Testament time, it's very strict because not many people know the language or know how to read or write. So very few people can do the job. But by the New Testament time, education is more available and more people can read or write. So now this is why the Bible translation is more successful and more available. People know how to read and write, and they want to know the Bible. And the Bible have been translated from the early day on until the Middle Age. When we talk about the Middle Age, we talk about the 12th century on to the 15th century. And this is time that is supposed to be more translation, but the church, the Catholic Church, forbid translation of the Bible. Now people ask why. Since the Bible have been translated in the early time and the church always want people to know the Bible. Why the Catholic Church stopped the translation and don't want people to know Bible? That's a good question. This is the truth. This is the words of God. It's good to let people know, but the church don't want people to know the words of God, and don't want people to read the words of God, and don't want people to know the truth. Why? Well, there's so many answers, but the main thing is, if the people don't know the truth, they can tell them anything. They can teach them anything. If people know the truth, people will believe and do just the truth. But when they don't know it, you tell them anything, and you tell them that this is from the leader, people believe you, obey you, even that is not the truth. And this is how the church, the Catholic Church, control people in Europe for thousands of years. They don't know the truth. They don't have the Bible. And this is a sad story for at least 1,000 years. People don't know the truth. People don't know the Bible and don't have the freedom to read the Bible because all the leadership don't allow them. It's sad. Even today, if you go to those churches, there is Bible available, but the leader still tell you, don't read, don't study, because you don't know. You misunderstood the truth, the fact. You just come to the temple. You just come to the church, and the leader, the priest will teach you. Just obey them, and that's good enough. You don't need to study the Bible yourself. You don't need to read the Bible yourself. So even today, there is all available. They still discourage people to read the Bible. They tell people, don't read, don't study. You don't know, you don't understand. Just come to listen to the priest, and good enough. So that is a sad truth again. Even today, the translation of the Bible is available all over the world. And people have the opportunity to buy their own Bible. I know some people have so many versions of Bible, but they don't read because all the leader tell them don't read, don't study. Just come to listen to the leader. And whatever the leader tell you, just obey and believe. But the Bible itself, the Bible, the words of God tell us to read, to study, to know the truth, and the truth will set us free. So this is against the Bible, against the teaching of God. And the Middle Age, we call that the Dark Age, because all the truth, all the fact was destroyed by the leader, by the church, because they want to control people. They believe that when people don't know anything, it's easy to control, to manage. When people know too much, it's difficult to control them, to manage them. So this is the idea, the belief of leadership in the Middle Age. Well, today is still that way in many countries in the world, or the leadership don't want the people to know the truth, don't want the people to know the fact, because they believe that when they don't know anything, it's easier to control them, to tell them, to guide them. If they know too much, they cause problem. And that is sad truth. And we talk about after the Middle Age, it starts around the 16th century. A lot of scholars in the church, inspired by God, like Martin Luther, John Calvin, they're all the priests in the Catholic Church who have high education. Martin Luther came from Germany and John Calvin came from France. They all study in the church teaching until they get doctorate degree. So they know how to read Greek and Hebrew themselves. the original version of the Bible. So when they studied the Bible from the original languages, they found the truth that they never known, that the church hiding from them. So they want to tell the truth to all the people that this is the word of God. This is the fact that the church hiding from people. So they start translating the Bible, Martin Luther into Germany and John Calvin into French. And now God provide for them a tool to spread the fact through their translation, the printing machine. The printing machine held the translation to print overnight, and the next day the new translation, each chapter of the New Testament, of the Old Testament, can post on the pole, and for the whole town people who have education now, or some education, and people can read to them, this is the words of God that they never heard, they never known before, in their own native tongue, native language, in German, in French, and also in English. Or the leadership in Rome got so mad and threatened to kill all of them. Why? Because you tell the truth to the people, you let them know the words of God that we suppressed for 1,000 years. We hide it from the people. And it's so successful. But this is the time that God wants to clean up the church and want the people to know the truth, that the leader who corrupted and hide the truth from the people. The only way is the printing shop print more and more pages of the Bible and give to people and make it cheaper, easier. And you see more and more translation will come out beside the German, the French, the English, now the Czech Republic. In the 16th century, they already start translating the Bible into their own languages. And more leaders, priests from those countries who go to study in Rome have the knowledge of the Old Testament from Hebrew and the New Testament from original Greek. They start translating Bible into their own languages. And now the truth come out, the more translation going on. And it's almost like the whole world catch fire. But it's a good fire though, the fire of revival. People know the truth. People come back to God because this is the first time they know the words of God, and the power of the words of God changed their life. So that's a good thing. And here we will concentrate more on the English translation. Why? Because later on, the English language will going to be the language of the world. It will start from the 17th, 18th century. That English going to be the language of the world. And then the translation into English is going to be the most important version of the Bible, because most of the world will understand Bible through English language. And that will start from the when the English will start ruling the world in the 17th century on. But the Bible already come out in English in the 16th century. You see that the book of Psalm in 1530, Isaiah 31, 1533. So it takes a whole year to finish translate each book. It takes a lot of time. Not because they work slow, but they're very careful, translating the words of one word at a time. They take a very careful on their work. And they check and double check, triple check, and check it all the time that it correctly translate from the original language, from the best version or copy they can get. So it takes a lot of time. And a lot of time because there are not many people helping them, because the people who have that high education, maybe just a few. So they work alone in that translation. It's different from today. When we have translation, we have the whole committee, 10, 20, or even more people helping, translating the one book. And they come together every week for the meeting to correct, to compare, and to choose the best translation amongst themselves. So this is a different job in the old time. And now we talk about modern translation. The Bible has been translated. Just look at the year 1996, full Bible in 308 languages, New Testament 764 languages, portion 1,000. And so just look at the total number, 2,086 languages. Now you look at today, 2022. The whole Bible translated into 724 languages. New Testament 1,016 languages. Total. And this is portion of the Bible. The total everything in every languages in the world today, Bible translated into 3,589 languages. You ever imagine that this will have that so many languages? We just thought about a few that we know. We never believed that 3,500 and still go on. And this is the sin of Babel time. Before Babel time, we speak just one language. Now, almost 4,000. Unbelievable. And still keep growing. We found out that there's still more languages that don't have Bible in their own language. People in the jungle, in the mountain, in the deep, somewhere else. Even they don't have a lot of people, but they have their own language that we want them to know the Bible and read in their own language. That's why the job never done. We keep going. Now, the most famous Bible translator organization in the world we call Wilcrit. They believe that they have a vision in 2025. They believe that the vision in that year, they will translate the Bible into every single language in the world. So this is the vision in 1999. So they just give themselves 26 years to do that job. But the fact is, they overestimate themselves. It's a good dream, it's a good plan, because we found out that from 1999 till 2020, we did not do as much as we can do. So now the new project is by 2150, we believe that we might succeed, translate the Bible into every language. So we give ourselves 27 more years. Well, we see if we live long enough to 2025, no, I mean 50. Well, most of you still young, you might live until 2150. It's just 27 more years. And we will see that it's possible or not. Now, new estimate coming out that even 2150, we still won't finish it. Because we found out that more group of people who don't have the Bible, and they speak more and more languages that we know. So now the new number come out 2038. Well, we will see which number we will fulfill. What is possible for us to do until that time. Now today we have translated the Bible into 2,846 languages in 157 countries. And 1.11 billion people read the Bible, had access to the Bible in their own languages. So this is something that's so successful. No any other book in the history of mankind have been translated into that many languages. The effort, the work is so enormous. And people who sacrifice to make this thing possible give all things for God, to fulfill what God called us to do. It's a big job, and still need more and more people who want to sacrifice to do the job. Well, this is the sum up of the lecture of this chapter. You can go back and read in detail. I will give you time for comment or question now. Why we learn all this? Well, Bible is the book of God. It's so important for us. And we know that we need to know how it starts, and we are part of it. When I say we are part of it, mean that we are the one who are responsible to share the words of God, whatever we can do. Who knows, God might call some of you to be the translator, to help fulfill this call, to bring the Bible to the whole nation, to the whole world, to every languages, to every country, every group of people. It needs a lot of sacrifice to make it happen. And even in our own languages, the Bible still needs more translation, new version, to make it better all the time. Some people have a question that, should we stop wasting time doing the language that we already have so many versions and do the one that we don't have? The answer is no. Every language have the right to do a better job and keep improving the words of God. So you cannot tell the English version that stop doing that. You already have been doing this for 500 years. No, they still keep doing it. At the same time, we held the new version, the new language to translate the Bible to. I know that the Lao just have two versions of translation, and the Mien maybe two too. While the English have thousands of versions already. And the Mien will not stop at two, because they need to improve, they need to make it better, and the Lao need to update that version. When will this job done of translating the Bible? When? You have the answer?
I think until God says it's done.
Jesus said that the whole world will pass away, but the words of God will stand forever. The Bible is the words of God. Okay, you have any chance to take part in translation in any way? Yes, Nathan.
Me and Farm and Kate and Farm, San and Chai. I think we try to get together on Thursday, try to discuss about how to work on it.
Hmm.
So it will be, it will not be an easy task.
Yes, it's difficult, but it's worth doing it.